what submarine crew actually cook and eat for 90 days underwater, and how they avoid food poisoning. Right now, 70 submariners 300 feet below the ocean surface are sitting down to eat dinner. Not freeze-dried space food, not military rations. Actual cooked meals, steak, lobster, pizza, fresh-baked bread, even ice cream. But here's what most people don't know. For the first 2 weeks underwater, submarine food is restaurant quality. By week 4, fresh food is gone, and the real test begins. By week 8, crews are eating frozen meals reheated in industrial ovens. And despite being sealed in a metal tube with 70 people for 90 days, despite having no refrigeration backup if systems fail, submarines have one of the best food safety records in the entire military. The Navy hasn't had a major food poisoning outbreak on a submarine in over 2 decades. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what submariners eat during different phases of deployment, how submarine kitchens operate under extreme constraints, and why food safety on subs is actually better than most restaurants. Quick question. Could you eat frozen, reheated food for 60 days straight? Drop yes or no in the comments. Let's start with what happens before the submarine even leaves port. The Navy allocates approximately $11 per person per day for submarine food, significantly more than surface ships. This isn't generosity. This is recognition that submarine duty is brutal, and good food keeps morale from collapsing. Weeks before departure, the supply officer calculates exact food requirements. 70 crew members eating 3 meals per day for 90 days equals 18,900 meals. The submarine must carry enough food for 20,000 meals with zero resupply. You need variety. You need ingredients that last. You need foods that can be stored without refrigeration after fresh storage runs out. Here's what gets loaded during final days before deployment. Fresh food comes first. Hundreds of pounds of fresh vegetables, lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, onions, fresh fruit, apples, oranges, bananas, fresh meat, steaks, chicken, pork chops, ground beef, fresh dairy, milk, eggs, cheese. This gets stored in refrigerated compartments. Next comes frozen food, the backbone of submarine cuisine after week 2. Thousands of pounds of frozen vegetables, frozen meat, frozen pre-made meals, frozen pizza, frozen desserts. Then comes shelf-stable food, canned goods, dry goods that last months. Canned vegetables, canned fruit, pasta, rice, flour, sugar, cooking oil, spices. Finally comes emergency rations, military MRES stored in case of equipment failure. The food storage situation is wild. There's no massive pantry. Food gets stored wherever there's space, under bunks, in hallway corners, in torpedo rooms. Crew members literally sleep on cases of canned goods for the first weeks until enough food is consumed to free up storage space. Every available cubic foot gets packed with food. Have you ever had to eat the same meal repeatedly because you had no other options? Tell me in the comments. Now let's talk about the submarine kitchen, officially called the galley. This is where 3 cooks work 24 hours a day preparing meals for 70 people in a space smaller than a home kitchen. The galley has industrial equipment, ovens, stovetops, deep fryers, griddles, mixers, but it's crammed into a narrow space. The cooks work in 8-hour shifts because meal preparation never stops. Breakfast from 0600 to 0700. Lunch from 1100 to 12:30. Dinner from 1700 to 18:30. And midrats, midnight rations, from 2300 to midnight for night watch crews. That's 4 meal services per day for 90 days straight. Here's what the first 2 weeks look like. The fresh food phase. Breakfast might be scrambled eggs from real eggs, bacon, sausage, hash browns, fresh fruit, toast. Lunch might be sandwiches with fresh lettuce and tomatoes, soup, salad. Dinner might be grilled steak, baked potatoes, fresh vegetables, salad, fresh rolls, and real ice cream. During this phase, submarine food rivals good restaurants. The cooks are motivated, ingredients are fresh, morale is high. But fresh food doesn't last. Lettuce wilts within 10 days. Tomatoes get mushy, bananas turn black. Milk spoils. Fresh meat gets used up quickly because it takes valuable refrigerator space. By day 14, the fresh food phase ends. Some submarines do a halfway night celebration when fresh food runs out. The last fresh salad bar, the last fresh vegetables, the last meal that tastes like land food. After this, the submarine enters the frozen phase, and this is where submarine cooks earn their reputation. Week 3 through week 12 runs entirely on frozen and shelf-stable ingredients. Breakfast becomes powdered eggs, frozen sausage, frozen hash browns, canned fruit, shelf-stable milk. Lunch becomes frozen burgers, frozen fries, canned vegetables. Dinner becomes frozen chicken, frozen vegetables, rice or pasta, canned gravy. Desserts become shelf-stable cakes made from box mixes or frozen pies. The challenge isn't just using frozen food. It's making frozen food interesting enough that 70 people don't riot from monotony. Submarine cooks get creative. Taco Tuesday, Pizza Friday, Spaghetti night, barbecue night, breakfast for dinner. The menus rotate, but ingredients stay the same. It's all about presentation and seasoning to create variety from limited options. One unique aspect of submarine food culture is the emphasis on baking. Submarine cooks bake fresh bread almost daily using flour and yeast from dry storage. Fresh bread becomes incredibly important psychologically after week 3 when everything else is frozen or canned. The smell of baking bread in the morning is one of the few sensory experiences that reminds the crew of normal life. Cooks also bake cookies, cakes, and pastries from scratch using shelf-stable ingredients. These aren't fancy desserts, but they're made fresh, and that matters tremendously for morale. Which phase would be harder for you, losing fresh vegetables or eating frozen meals for 2 months? Comment below. Now let's talk about the food safety measures that prevent food poisoning on submarines, because this is where things get serious. The Navy learned hard lessons from historical outbreaks. Food poisoning on a submarine is catastrophic. You can't evacuate. You can't hospitalize patients. You can't resupply clean food. If half the crew gets food poisoning, the submarine loses operational capability. So the Navy implemented strict protocols that make submarine galleys safer than most commercial restaurants. Protocol 1. Temperature control is obsessive. All refrigerators and freezers have continuous temperature monitoring with alarms. If temperature rises above safe levels, alarms sound and the issue gets addressed immediately. Food storage temperatures are logged every 4 hours. Hot food must be held above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold food must stay below 40 degrees. The danger zone between 40 and 140 degrees is avoided religiously because this is where bacteria multiply rapidly. Protocol 2. Cooking temperatures are mandatory. Every piece of meat gets cooked to specific internal temperatures verified with calibrated thermometers. Chicken must reach 165 degrees. Ground beef must reach 160. Fish must reach 145. No exceptions. No, it looks done judgment calls. Thermometers verify every single batch. Protocol 3. Cross-contamination prevention is extreme. Raw meat is handled on designated cutting boards that never touch vegetables or cooked food. Separate knives, separate preparation areas, separate storage. After handling raw meat, surfaces are sanitized with bleach solution before anything else touches them. Cooks change gloves between tasks. Hand washing is mandatory and monitored. Protocol 4. Time limits on prepared food. Once food is cooked, it must be served within 2 hours or refrigerated. Leftovers can be held for maximum 72 hours in refrigeration before they must be discarded. No sniff test decisions. If food is beyond the time limit, it gets thrown away even if it looks and smells fine. Protocol 5. Daily health checks for galley workers. Any cook showing signs of illness, fever, vomiting, diarrhea, is immediately removed from food preparation duty. No working through sickness, no "I'm fine" exceptions. The risk of spreading foodborne illness is too high. Protocol 6. Water safety for food preparation. Submarines produce their own drinking water through desalination and purification systems. This water is tested daily for bacteria and contaminants. Only verified safe water is used for cooking, washing vegetables, making ice, and cleaning dishes. The result of these protocols is impressive. Submarines serve approximately 20,000 meals during a 90-day deployment, with virtually zero food poisoning incidents. Compare this to cruise ships serving similar numbers and experiencing frequent outbreaks. The difference is enforcement. On a submarine, food safety protocols aren't suggestions. They're followed perfectly because failure isn't an option. Here's what makes submarine food safety even more remarkable: the environmental challenges. The galley operates in high humidity. Condensation forms on every surface. Salt air corrodes equipment. Space is so limited that food preparation and storage happen in tight quarters where cross-contamination risks are high. The crew works exhausted on irregular sleep schedules, increasing chances of mistakes. Yet despite these challenges, submarine galleys maintain safety standards that exceed most land-based restaurants. Now, let's talk about what happens during extended deployments when food supplies start running low. By day 80, even frozen food supplies are depleted. The submarine enters what crews call creative cooking phase. Cooks must create meals from whatever ingredients remain. This might mean spaghetti with canned tomato sauce and canned vegetables 5 nights per week, because that's what's left. Or chili made from canned beans and canned tomatoes stretched with rice because meat is gone. Or goulash, a submarine term for whatever we can throw together from remaining ingredients. The Navy plans for this by loading extra staple ingredients that last indefinitely. Rice, pasta, flour, canned tomatoes, canned beans. These staples can create dozens of different meals depending on how cooks season and present them. But by day 85, even creativity can't disguise the monotony. Crews eat the same meals repeatedly. Complaints increase. Morale suffers. And this is why the Navy limits most submarine deployments to 90 days. Beyond that, food monotony becomes a serious operational problem. One interesting aspect of submarine food culture is the special meals. The Navy recognizes that food is psychological support during deployment, so certain days get special treatment. Thanksgiving underwater includes real turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie, all from frozen and canned ingredients, but prepared to feel like a real holiday meal. Christmas gets similar treatment. The halfway point of deployment often includes a special meal: steaks and lobster tails from frozen storage, prepared as celebration. And Steel Beach Picnic, when the submarine surfaces in the middle of the ocean, sometimes includes grilling burgers and hot dogs on the deck, giving the crew a few minutes of fresh air and normal food experience. The submariners who struggle most with food aren't picky eaters. They're people who need dietary variety. If you can eat the same meals repeatedly without psychological distress, submarine food is manageable. If you need constant variety, the monotony becomes torture. The Navy screens for this during submarine training by observing how candidates handle repetitive military food. Those who complain excessively about food don't make it through submarine qualification. What's fascinating is how submarine food culture has evolved with modern deployments. Older submarines had more limited menus and lower food quality. Modern submarines have better storage, better cooking equipment, and more sophisticated menus. Some newer submarines have improved ventilation that allows more elaborate cooking. Some have bread-making machines that produce fresh rolls daily. Some have soft-serve ice cream machines that work throughout deployment. These improvements seem minor, but they significantly impact crew morale during long underwater periods. The economic reality of submarine food is interesting. At $11 per person per day, the Navy spends approximately $69,300 feeding one submarine crew for 90 days. This seems expensive until you consider that this covers all food for 70 people with zero resupply, stored in minimal space, prepared in extreme conditions, and maintaining perfect food safety for 3 months. Compare this to feeding 70 people at restaurants for 90 days. That would cost over $500,000. Submarine food logistics are actually remarkably efficient. So here's the reality of what submariners actually eat for 90 days underwater. Weeks 1 and 2 are restaurant quality with fresh ingredients, fresh vegetables, fresh meat, and high morale. Weeks 3 through 10 shift to frozen ingredients, prepared creatively to maintain variety and interest. Weeks 11 through 13 enter survival mode, where cooks stretch remaining ingredients and crews accept monotony, knowing the end is near. Throughout all phases, strict food safety protocols prevent outbreaks that would cripple operations. Temperature monitoring, cooking verification, cross-contamination prevention, and time limits on prepared food create safety standards exceeding most restaurants. The result is that submarine crews eat well by military standards, maintain perfect food safety records, and survive 90 days underwater without fresh food resupply, an impressive feat of logistics and cooking skill. The submariners who thrive on this food aren't those with refined palates. They're people who view food as fuel, appreciate the cook's efforts under impossible conditions, and find ways to enjoy meals despite limitations. Because ultimately, submarine food isn't about gourmet experiences. It's about keeping 70 people fed, healthy, and operational for 90 days in the most extreme environment humans inhabit. If this changed how you think about submarine life and military food operations, subscribe and like this video now.